When you go across the bridge that goes from one part of Wisconsin into Door County, there's something that just magically changes when you cross that bridge. I think it's magical because it's the same feeling we expect to create for people when they come to Egg Harbor. If it's even just for a half an hour to get away from everything that bothers you and troubles you, it's an oasis from the storm.
A lot of people go into owning a business because they want the clout that comes with that or the financial side that comes with that, and I see none of that from Mike and Amy. Every time I talk with them, they haven't lost any passion for it 40 years later. I'm so excited for them to get to be a part of this 40-year celebration. Egg Harbor is a part of their daily conversation. It's probably rare for the two of them that they go more than an hour without talking about something with Egg Harbor.
The Farrells are the best people in the seats that they're in. They were these young kids that kind of took a chance on a dream, and not only did they build an incredible business, but an incredible culture and community of people who just care so much about something that was their dream.
Jack and his wife then, Paula, were looking at breakfast restaurants. They saw an ad in the paper with a guy that was coming out with a breakfast and lunch concept where you're only open for 7-8 hours a day.
My dad came out and kind of like wined and dined us to try to get us to come back and be involved in this business.
We were at the Columbia Gorge Hotel. He pulled out his briefcase, and the next thing we knew, he was drawing circles on a whiteboard, and he started to encourage us to consider possibly coming out to Chicago and helping open the first one, with the goal being that there would be up to 6. His famous line was, "I just want you to understand, I can't afford to pay you very much. You're probably gonna have to work 7 days a week, 10 to 12 hours a day, weekends and holidays, but if it works out, you'll be at the ground floor of a really special new endeavor." We had to take a 30-foot U-Haul with all the booths, tables, chairs, and drive it across country. Amy trained for 3 weeks on the front of the house. I learned how to cook and prep and how to do food orders. Jack made the decision that we were going to open a second restaurant. I'll never forget him sitting me down and saying, "Mike, I know this is a problem. We've got a great opportunity, but do you think you can do it?" And I said, "I will do anything. I will work 24 hours a day."
Mike and my dad did not always see things the same way, but they always respected each other. My dad and Mike would get very excited and want to go, and I would be the one like, let's think about this, let's analyze it.
We opened. So it's our last original Egg Harbor from those days, which makes it very special. John Sullivan, who was one of the opening owners of the First Watch that I had trained in, we had a sit-down meeting and we were talking about the opening first couple weeks. And one of the people that I took from Hinsdale said, you got to tell us the truth. This is the best opening you've ever been a part of, isn't it?" He just sat there and he had these steely blue eyes, and he looked down and he kind of was twisting his mustache a little bit, and he looked up and he said, "Yeah, it was." In June of 1988, we opened our third restaurant, which was Arlington Heights. It was a place where we could divide up some of the teams from Hinsdale and Lake Forest, and we could come together and start afresh. 1988 to 1992, we had 3 different restaurants which are all going to open within the same year. So this was a huge challenge. We literally were doubling in size.
We had our first child, Cassidy, right after we opened our second restaurant, Lake Forest restaurant, and then we had Matt right when we opened our third restaurant. Danny was 3 years later, and that was the year we opened 3 restaurants, and having a couple days a week at home to work with the kids, and especially because our youngest had special needs, and that became a full-time job with him. But I never stepped back completely from the business. I was very involved and still doing all the financial end of things, trying to find the most efficient ways to do some very burdensome tasks.
As we got more and more popular and we got busier and busier, no one is going to go to a breakfast place for a business meeting if it takes you 25, 30 minutes to get your food. I started writing the operations manual from nothing to try to teach people how to do eggs. I was known as a terror I would literally go back on the line, and if people made the pancakes 1 inch too small or 1 inch too big, I'd scrape them off and throw them against the wall. Two of the guys that had helped me from the very beginning in Hinsdale, they took me out for cocktails one night, and I was thinking, this is really nice. It was after a cocktail or two, they started to tell me, do you know that you scare everyone that works for you? I am not going to scare people anymore. I'm going to take all that stress and frustration that I was feeling, and I'm going to deliver a message in a way that's kind. Probably the best lesson I've ever learned in my life. So we continued on this march of opening new stores. I remember one time I had just gone down to the Naperville Egg Harbor. It turned out that the service manager was going through some problems. The next thing I know, there's a whole walkout. They basically took everyone except for 2 people. And I said, well, then let's have some fun with this. Let's go, let's get everyone on board. Let's go run some food, let's go take some orders. And we ended up having a great day. And it was the first win that I had once I decided I'm not going to allow my emotions to get the better of me. I had a Wheaton customer, and she called me one day and says, Mike, love your concept, but I happen to live up in Lake Geneva. I would love to look at it. We're afraid there's just not a big enough market there. Well, was I ever wrong? There's a guy who owns almost everything, and they arranged a meeting for me. I had already sent them a list of all the requirements we had for going into a new building. He just said, are you crazy, Jack? And he got up and walked out. So I thought, well, I guess that's not going to work out. About 2 weeks later, I get a phone call, and they said, we absolutely need an Egg Harbor in Lake Geneva. The next thing I know, we're going to be opening in Wisconsin.
My earliest memories of Egg Harbor, my parents bringing me, I think it was to the Lake Forest Egg Harbor, which is where I grew up as a young kid. And I actually remember they had this thing called create your own skillet. And I would always create, as a kid, I would create a skillet with bacon, ham, and sausage. And I would get that every time I went in when I was a kid. And eventually that became a menu item called the Matt's Meaty Skillet. I actually started at Egg Harbor when I was 15 years old. I worked as a host throughout high school, and then over the course of high school and college, I ended up becoming a server.
Mike and I always hoped that they would want to go into the business, but we never assumed it and never pushed them. They both worked their way through every position. It was absolutely clear to them they needed to be there early. They needed to prove themselves.
They never forced us to go into the business, but it's like they loved what they did so much that I think that kind of rubbed off on us a lot. And made us, very interested in kind of pursuing it and knowing that they had built something special and that we wanted to be a part of that.
One of the highlights of my career early on was actually being asked to be the opening manager and architect of the Schaumburg Egg Harbor Cafe. I got to be the opening manager as well as help design it and see that location get off the ground for the first couple of years.
My daughter goes to Clemson University, and she decides that she wants to do Egg Harbor, but she doesn't ever want to experience another Chicago winter.
I went to Clemson not really knowing for sure what I was going to do with my life, assuming that, there was a really good chance I would end up back at Egg Harbor. I did always know that I didn't want to live in Chicago anymore. It's just too cold in the winter. Talking with my parents, we obviously ultimately came to the decision, let's bring it to the South.
We said, well, if you want to do Egg Harbors down in Georgia, the first thing we've got to do is get you up to Chicago to get trained. If you're going to be, in a management capacity and leadership, you got to go and experience it.
I had never experienced anything like an Egg Harbor growing up where I did, at least in the South. I met Cassidy while she was going to school at Clemson.
The first Egg Harbor location, which now is Johns Creek. It was opened in 2011. It was an old firehouse. I said, you're 840 miles away from anyone that knows what Egg Harbor is. So it's not going to be like you're going to open your doors and people are going to be flooding it. It's a pioneering adventure, and you will be rewarded for it, but it's not going to be right away.
It was a disaster.
Train wreck.
It was a train wreck. There were not a lot of bright spots early on in the hiring. Everyone was just kind of out for themselves. A lot of the customers moved from Chicago, so it was not uncommon for customers to be familiar with Egg Harbor as a brand. We also got a lot of grace from those people because they knew we were new.
The team that we had put together, some of them ended up being great, like David Rutledge still with us, which is amazing after all this time. You look at the Johns Creek staff now versus back then, and it's like a whole different world. They're like family.
An individual broker that we used down there found us Sandy Springs, and it was just sort of a dilapidated, kind of an older center. He said, if you do this deal, I'll bet my commission this is going to be your #1 store down here. Sandy Springs took off immediately. And it was crazy. We did so well down in the Atlanta market that we actually were looking for more locations. Elliott and Cassidy have been promoted to regional developers, which means we're going to have them oversee the southern region.
For where we are right now, it's a very tight-knit group, I think. One of my biggest passions is trying to figure out how we can maintain that, as well as Illinois has, moving into the future.
I'm excited for the future market leaders being able to, bring it to new places. I think they'll have a lot easier time opening up in new markets than we did, just because of all the systems that are in place.
Matt Farrell getting the nod to be the president of the company is something that the group that works at Hamco got excited about, and he's someone that really possesses a strong skill of being able to integrate things. When Jack passed, I had the privilege of going to the funeral, and Matt was asked to speak. And I remember Matt saying, "Grandpa Jack, I know you're looking down on us, and I have a big responsibility now with this company, and I want to make you proud." Sometimes tough decisions come to a crossroads. There's no easy right or wrong answer. And in those moments of truth, what direction are we going to go? And we really look at our values to help us make that decision.
We came up with our 6 core values, we came up with our passion and our mission, and basically what we want to do is we want to build as many regulars as we possibly can. We want to improve lives one encounter at a time.
Start with habit number 1. It really teaches that in life, you get to choose how it is you're going to respond. Because in the restaurant industry, we're busy. There can be a long wait list. People are hungry. We have a responsibility to not get frustrated about the situation that's in front of us, but get logical. When we had to close the doors for COVID and go to carry out only, we sent a survey out to all of our managers to find out what they wanted to do. Because it was a very difficult spot to be in, and there were unknowns with people's capacity to commute and who could work where. And when this survey came back, I got chills reading the answers from the managers, because we had manager after manager say things like, "I will go to any store, I will do any role, whatever it takes to help Egg Harbor overcome this time." We've got a group of people that are not going to let us fail. And it's because of having a value all in that people are living, that it was just an instinct that that's how our teams responded. The first of the 2 R's in Harbor, it's radiate goodness. For the long term, you can't really fake it. It becomes more fun to come into work and to smile and have that energy. The number one important part of our uniform is the smile. The B in Harbor, and that's be about others. Knowing people's names, celebrating the things that they're accomplishing. We recently had a post go up on our social media of Clinton, who is a dishwasher in Brookhaven, celebrating what he's doing for the company. It was a celebration internally of the impact that he's made. Only Speak Truths is a very unique value, because on the outside it sounds simple, being a person of integrity, being someone who's honest, and those things are important. But they don't differentiate us from any other company. That when you say you're going to do something, that you actually follow through on what you say. And the last one is the reflex of excellence. I always like to say it's not about perfection. There's going to be problems and things that happen in the shift. But it's a group of people that when that problem happens, they, like a reflex, want to get it fixed. We have now for a number of years during the holidays done a special Cooper's hot chocolate. Kids love them. And when families order this hot chocolate, they get excited because the proceeds go to Lurie's Children's Hospital to help children and families that are going through a challenging time. One of the problems that families have is when the child gets better and gets released, it's exciting, but the family has gone through a financial hardship, and going back to school can be expensive because the child needs supplies. So they asked us, would there be a way you guys could buy supplies and backpacks for kids? Over 80 people came out, and we filled up a lot of backpacks. To this day, I still hear team members talk about that day and how it made them feel.
Mike and I were visiting stores, and in back-to-back days, we met Caesar in Libertyville, who'd been with us for 39 years, and Izzy in Arlington Heights, who is at 40 years. That is incredible that someone has made Egg Harbor their home that long.
Like when I got married, 5 of my 8 bridesmaids were people that I met through Egg Harbor.
There's people that have been around here for 38 years. Why is that?
You know, when I first started at Egg Harbor, I wasn't planning on making this a career. The previous restaurant that I had worked at, you know, I was there for a couple of years that had a similar concept, breakfast and lunch. Almost no one stayed more than a year. I was shocked when I got to Egg Harbor, like, wow, everyone stays here a long time.
There's many, many people that come to Egg Harbor and they never thought this was a real job, and their parents never thought this was a real job, right? They're on their way to somewhere else. Most restaurants are not well run. They have management mindset. There's no teamwork. It's just survival.
Seeing Mike come into my store, he always walks in with a smile on his face, and he's always excited to hear stories about what's going on or what's new.
The restaurant industry holds a lot of negative perception because a lot of times, you know, organizations are just looking what they can get from someone else. I was in a really tough time in my life where I felt very lost. Egg Harbor really took the time to just pour into me, and they had so much patience with me, and they, you know, taught me, and they continue to develop me despite, you know, the things that went wrong, and I think that that's truly special.
I mean, I started as a host and went to serving and got into management around 2017, and been kind of up and down with that. After being demoted from a store lead, I got the opportunity to go to Geneva to become a store lead again, and my time spent there honestly was truly amazing. Being able to take that momentum and go and open a store, and being tasked with that challenge and being trusted with that challenge, I felt like was a huge achievement, especially because years prior I just thought, well, if I'm demoted, is this it? Am I actually the right person? Trying to get up as much as you can as opposed to just giving up. I think that's like one of my greatest and proudest moments.
My father who brought me into this company, and I started at the Arlington Heights location as a juice boy and then slowly progressed from there through each position, from dishwasher to server to cook, back to server, and then into the management world. When I was younger, I wanted to know every last thing there was to know, from, you know, how to open, how to close, every position. And as I've progressed, I've learned that your staff really doesn't care about how much you know. They care about how much you care, whether it's about them or about what you're invested to in that moment. You really have to build a team, and I think by the way we did that was through our culture of valuing everybody and making sure that they felt that when they walked in there every single day that they were a part of something bigger. I met my wife working at this company, and for the last 10 years we've been together, and it's been the greatest journey I've ever been on.
I started at Egg Harbor because my sister worked at Egg Harbor for a long time. I started visiting her at Egg Harbor, and I was like, man, this is definitely a different kind of vibe. I really love the mission and the people that are in leadership. So they asked if I would be interested in a store lead position, and I was shocked. And I just remember the statement being, if you trust me, I trust me. Like, if you see that vision in me, why not? I really felt like I got just a really well-rounded experience at this company, just opening stores and like learning with so many people that were veterans at different locations. It just really showed to me that the Egg Harbor culture is through and through in all of our locations. My role models in this company have come from the people that are my leaders and have always been my leaders. One of them was my little sister, someone that didn't have to be in store all the time to be so committed to the team. And that was a different kind of leadership that I'd ever experienced. It's never has been a place where I've felt like I didn't want to go to work. I think having a happy kitchen has been what translates to such a happy dining experience for our guests in the dining room.
I'm used to when a restaurant, when they close down, you pretty much find out the day of. They're just like, hey, this is our last day. Gotta find a new job. We came in, it was my second Sunday, and they told us that the restaurant was about to close down. So they were trying to find a spot for everybody to land. They found a spot for almost everybody there. They didn't owe me anything, but they still were like, hey, like, we want you to still be a part of this team. I was a cook. Back of house stuff, I learned it pretty easy. When it came to the front of house, and I had that toast tablet in my hand, I felt so lost. So when I see servers who have trouble with the toasting, I'm like, take your time. We are gonna figure it out. I know it's hard.
When I started getting involved in serving tables, all of my teammates, the other servers on the floor, were very quick to offer me help. When you first start doing something and it's new, it's a little bit scary, you don't have the skill yet. If people are coming behind you and offering you assistance, it kind of takes away some of that tension of the day.
We treat each other with kindness and respect, and we just look forward to every single day of working with each other. It doesn't matter if we're short staffed, if we're busy, if things go wrong. At the end of the day, every single employee has a smile on their face and they're just happy to push through with one another. It's definitely what keeps me going every day.
I started as a regular cook in a pancake station. I think that makes the food special. It's just about care. Personally, I love the opportunity that I have. I love the people being around me. I got family, I got team to follow me, and I want them to succeed. I want them to be better than Ricky.
As a store manager, I seen the company going through different phases. Starting obviously with the vision that Jack Wright had, transitioning to Mike Farrell, and now into Matt's hands. It's been a journey, and it's definitely different phases in the company. Never missing or never moving away from what the real structure is. Something that we always hear is never change or great, never change, but actually here we embrace you to change and be the best version of yourself every day. My oldest son joined Egg Harbor when he was 15. My youngest joined when he was 16. They both are still currently working with me. It's been an amazing journey. They've been working with me in a few stores.
My father's been with the company since I was 2 years old. So basically, as far as I can remember, I would come on weekends with my mother and my brother. Holidays, right? We'd come for like Mother's Day. That was really big for us. I've been working here for 6.5 years. I don't think there's really many jobs where you can meet this many people in such a short amount of time and get to connect with them in such like unique ways.
Honestly, a lot of like my best memories are just like with my teammates working in stores. I'm a big fan of Halloween, and every year we dress up as a team in some kind of Halloween costume, and we still do that to this day. We have our Halloween contest, and that was always just so fun for me. It had such great camaraderie.
Always having that sense of community is like what really makes a good place to work at.
We have regulars, Mike and Marilyn. They would come every weekend, and they'd come and they'd tell me all their stories. They weren't there for 3 weekends, and I was like, oh, I wonder if they're okay or if they're on vacation. And Marilyn reached out to us. She emailed Alpharetta and let me know that he was in the hospital. She loves Egg Harbor. She's like, I can't wait for us to go back.
We have customers that come in and will ask managers, how do you get such friendly people? And so I've seen that from 2009 now to 2025.
People tell me all the time, like, oh man, I love Egg Harbor. Everything that anyone ever raves to me about, it's something to do with the people that are in the store. I can't interact with every guest. I can't flip every egg. I can't flip every pancake. I can't wash every cup. Mike can't, Amy can't, Cassidy can't, Matt can't.
Having the right people on these teams and knowing that you can count on people and that they have your back and that they're going to work hard and you're going to work hard and you're going to persevere and you're going to get through things, it really helps you to overcome a lot. I think our managers here have such a good eye, a good way to see who are the right people, making sure that we're maintaining the culture that we want to have. We have a lot of people who come here through referrals, which is awesome to me, that people that work for us feel comfortable enough to want to bring in their friends, their family to come and work for us as well.
A lot of places, I don't know, you're just a number, you're just an employee, and you're just this or just that. But at Egg Harbor, every single person is important, and we're all very aware of the fact that nobody can do their role in any position alone.
I think it's very easy to get caught up in the success of your own efforts if that's how you view it. Anything that I have been able to contribute towards has been on the foundation of somebody else. We've been blessed to have a lot of great people over the years that are either still with us or were with us for a good run that are no longer with us because they moved on to do something different in their lives and careers, and that's great. But Egg Harbor wouldn't be where it is without those people, right?
The people that we have found, hired, nurtured, that have excelled, that have grown with us, I think that's always what brings us the most pride.
An important part of my job is trying to balance Egg Harbor Cafe's legacy while also adapting to modern trends in the industry and modern technologies. My dad, Mike, always would say he wants us to be the Cheers of the breakfast industry. When people walk in, they feel like family, we know their name, and the regulars are really the glue that holds us together. How can we be the best place for our guests and for our customers? And any new technology that comes out, we try to say, all right, how can we tap into that to make ourselves even better for our customers?
Egg Harbor started almost 40 years ago with a look and a vibe and a feel, and it was very successful with that. As we continue to grow and move into decades, we wanted to maintain and keep that same vibe and that same feel, but also wanted to give our guests sort of some fresh, new looks and show the people that have been coming to our restaurants for decades that we're reinvesting in our stores. And our existing stores have been updated, have been given facelifts. We do it as we all go through life. We change, and our identity as people evolve, and our identity as Egg Harbor does continue to evolve.
When I first got into management, coming up every single day with a special was the manager's choice. And so some managers liked it, and for others it was a burden. We also have, I think, a better and more exciting menu than we've ever had, with special limited time offerings that we're doing that can be ideas that are trendy or potentially ideas that we get from our staff. Another thing that's evolved over time has been our uniform. Now we have what I think is a really nice look. Everyone wears nice jeans, and we have these special designed Egg Harbor t-shirts.
With Courtney and the training programs, and David now, who is a huge piece in opening new stores, the systems, and Graham and his team with the build out and the turnover week and all these different things that we have in place now make opening a new restaurant a night and day experience compared to us trying to get Johns Creek off the ground.
We have a growing catalog of resources for all of our people. They can take courses and they can watch videos and get leadership training. Our service concept right now, we worked incredibly hard the last couple years to rearrange the way that our team dynamic works for our guests.
I never want somebody to come into our restaurants and have a bad experience because somebody wasn't trained well. So I want to make sure that our employees are trained to just do the best that they can to, in turn, just give the best experience possible to our guests. It's just a lot of strategizing of maybe it's not an issue now, but how can we get to that next level and just give even greater service? We're trying to improve lives one encounter at a time. Like, that doesn't just stop with our customers. I think if we're constantly being told to look for an opportunity to improve someone's life, that, I don't know, goes for each other too.
We hold a book club every month. We pick a leadership book. So every month we take a book, we read it, we come together at the end of it, and we just have discussion questions. We really get to just bounce ideas off of one another. And oftentimes we do get to apply them to our everyday life, whether it's at work or it's at home.
When you really focus on a book, the cool thing about it is it sticks in your heart and you remember it. We've studied the book Crucial Conversations. We've studied the book Find Your Why and the second edition Start Your Why with Simon Sinek. When we gather together and take that time to step away from the restaurant and really reflect on what we've accomplished and also areas that we want to grow, and those two things merge, people walk away inspired. I'm just excited that here we are 40 years later, and because we've learned from books like Good to Great, we're very confident that 40 years from now, we'll be celebrating Egg Harbor at 80-year anniversary.
I joined Egg Harbor 17 years ago. I was hired for the opening of the Libertyville store. They took the time to teach us things about the jobs we were doing that people in other jobs had never done for me. The team was kind of gathered together and talked to as a whole, and told, this is what's happening. Here are some of the things maybe yesterday that you didn't do as well, that as a team you guys should improve on to make today better. I think everyone wants to feel like they're being taken seriously, you know, and that they actually have talent and that they can do something. And this was the first place where I really felt like people were looking at me and like holding me to a high standard and being like, I know you can do this. The leadership, a lot of them were young, like a lot of them were my age. I was around 23, 24 years old at the time. And you're like, how is this person who's my age like so much better at this than I am? And like, I have so much respect for this person. As a team leader, a lot of responsibility was put on me and I learned a lot by failing. And you know, you get to a point where you're like, well, I messed this up. I know I can't make an excuse, so I'm just gonna own it. And looking at the four walls of the store you're in and saying, like, we have to accomplish this with just what we have. The idea of being away from everything else, I think, can be scary to some people, which I totally understand. But for me, those were the moments where I really thrived. No one's gonna help you. You gotta figure it out. And like, I love that. That was like when I'm at my best, I feel. I was watching as we had piloted a Market Founder program. You know, I talked with my wife, and one day I went into Matt's office and said, look, you know, I'd like to throw my hat in the ring for this Market Founder program, and I really think Colorado would be a great place. And I kind of made a pitch to him. I showed him, you know, what I'd put together. And so Matt was very excited and said, like, you know, this is actually the perfect timing. Before long, I mean, we were on a flight out to Colorado. We looked at 30 sites, and we found 2 that were like the quintessential perfect places for an Egg Harbor, and started working with them, and we just ended up closing on both of those leases.
There are some towns and cities out there that are really passionate about where they live. They're excited about the businesses that are there. We really love being a part of those. We want to get involved. We want to see kids coming in with trophies that they've just won because they want to celebrate. That's where we find the energy. We want to focus on, we are here to serve you, and we'd like to do it in a warm, comfortable, home-like atmosphere that doesn't have neon signs everywhere, the same vibe that Egg Harbor has really always had. As we are able to sort of replicate, each one of these stores is slightly different. They all follow the same vibe and the same feel, but there might be slightly different light fixtures, or slightly different floor, and slightly different layout in the dining room, but makes them all very unique. It's not just creating something that's cookie cutter. How do we make this feel like Egg Harbor? So the vision will always look a little bit different, and the store will always look a little bit different, but it should always feel like Egg Harbor.
With everything the Farrell family has done for me, I want to try to contribute as much back to the Farrells and to the company as I possibly can. You know, it's all one big family, and so to be able to contribute a huge amount back to that, I think it's like, that's one of the things I'm really excited about.
I'm really excited for Egg Harbor to get out to Colorado. I'm a really big fan of the idea that we're out there sharing our culture to a new region, because I love Denver, but I don't think it has the Egg Harbor community that it deserves.
These days, the quality of service everywhere is going down. Like, everywhere. It is, like, think about, it is so rare to go to a restaurant and be blown away. That is a common thought, no matter who you talk to. If we can be that one place where people walk out of there and they're like, wow, like, I haven't had a breakfast like that in a long time. You know, like, that's all you need to do.
Why we are changing what typical restaurants feel and like for customers and, you know, employees alike.
Getting to go out, take the things I've learned over my, 17 years with the company, and really push myself out there on my own, and hopefully get to a place where we do extremely well. And I'm able to come back and say, like, Matt, Mike, Amy, like, look what we've done. I mean, our dream was to make enough money that we could live a great life, and we've already done that. And now what we're trying to do is we're trying to put back into the stores.
I think you fear, that it's going to become too big and lose that feel. So everything that we do to try to make sure that it doesn't lose that feel.
I am actually the third generation with this company being founded by my parents and my grandfather. So I'm generation 3, and along with my sister Cassidy, between the two of us, we have a total of 6 kids. They're all under 10 years old right now, so they're all young.
And I'm hoping that our children at some point will at least work at one of the restaurants. And, like, I would not want to force them to feel like they have to go into the family business. Would I love it if they did, as long as they're going to work hard and they're going to earn their way?
I think the next 40 years will be kind of fun to watch unfold, and continuing to learn how to scale our culture to new markets. And there's not a lot of companies that have successfully done that. Based on my experience doing Georgia, it might not be easy to start with, right? But you got to have the grit, if you will, to grind through it and to keep building and developing and creating what you know Egg Harbor to be. What Mike and Amy have started and built over 40 years is incredible. We continue the legacy that they helped create and establish, and I hope that we're able to pass that down onto the next generation as effectively as they did to us.
We feel like we have a very good thing going at Egg Harbor. We can take time to slow down and celebrate the 40 years. And after that, we get right back to work. What's the next thing that we need to do? How can we utilize technology and advancements in the direction this industry is going and make sure that we're on the forefront of it? That's the path that we're on right now. Improving lives one encounter at a time, building regulars in the communities that we serve. That formula, to me, has us set up for decades of continued success. I have no doubt in 40 years, we're here celebrating again.
And who knows what the future holds, but I know we're all excited about the idea of keeping this as a 100% family-owned business for the generations and decades to come, and doing it in a way that'll make Mike, Amy, and Grandpa Jack proud.